gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country?
All right.
How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberly property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you.
And
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So you don't want to answer the question?
That he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
to accept him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Assalamu alaikum. This country could explode. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he works, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new African. Forget the begging. There will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and the International Monetary Fund tells you. It's crumbs.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Before I go any further, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to the Islamic Society of the Kingston Polytechnic, and especially Brother Amjad and Brother Zahir Bhatti for their efforts in making tonight possible. Continuation of that vein, we invited Dr. Khalid Al Mansoor to give a lecture tour of London. Tonight is, I think, his 5th lecture, and I have enjoyed every single one, but I'm especially looking forward to tonight because the topic, nothing from nothing leaves nothing, leaves a lot to the imagination. I would now introduce to you Dr. Khalid Al Mansoor. Let's have a warm welcome for him.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, it's a great pleasure for me to be here this evening. Notwithstanding the laudatory remarks you have heard, I anticipate that some of you will, in fact, be disappointed in my address this evening. Some of you have made up your mind that I'm going to adopt the traditional approach to describing the pillars of Islam. And I feel that given the fact that many of you, if not most of you, are college students or college trained, that perhaps this would be an ideal occasion to depart from the normal presentation that you might hear on any given Jummah in the mosque, or that you can certainly read about the pillars of the faith and the ingredients of the Shahada. These things you hear every week and every month and every year. So I felt that the topic of life and death before a college body might be somewhat stimulating to you. And at the same time, from a selfish point of view, it might give me greater insights into the topic. Because the topic is a bit difficult, I intend to make clear when I am giving just my own opinion and when there is a body of information in quotes called scientific to back up the statements. I don't know of any book that has sufficient data to speak authoritatively on all dimensions of life and death. Therefore, there is of necessity the need to advance notions and concepts or constructs so that we might try to massage this very delicate and expansive concept, life and death. I am aware of the fact that some of you in college have professors who believe that the whole notion of life after death or God has no place really in the discussion of the scientific world. They have stated that the world of science should confine itself to those propositions that can be verified through the senses. So the scientist has told us that they are going to be concerned with things that they can verify through the sight, or hearing, or smell, or taste, or touch. And if one cannot obtain information or data through those senses, and if that resulting data or sense data is not relevant to the propositions of science, then they're not legitimate. And I meet from time to time college students who come to college believing in Allah, believing in God, and after one semester of sitting at the feet of certain scientists, they begin to become confused. They say, well, I'm not sure I should hold these views anymore because I want to be a scientist. I want to be involved in a search for empirical data and knowledge that is not involved in mysticism. So I thought that I would take the first few minutes of my lecture to discuss the scientific method and the limitations of the scientific method for the purpose of assuring those who opt to believe in Allah, who opt to believe in a creator, there is absolutely no reason for you to feel embarrassed or for you to apologize. Let me tell you why I have reached that conclusion. It is true that in the classical scientific approach, one talks about examining a few items, collecting data on those items, and inferring the characteristics of an entire class, from the particular to the general, is the normal activity of the world of science. However, even though the scientist is looking at data, the scientist employs more than data that comes through the senses in order to operate the scientific method. In fact, if the scientists were to confine themselves to sense data alone, there could be no science. There could be no communication. If we wanted, for instance, to determine whether or not it was raining outside, we can go through a series of scientific experiments. Indirectly, we can look out and see if we can find people with umbrellas. That doesn't prove conclusively that it's raining, but these are clues, symptoms. We can look at the window and see if we see moisture on the window. If we're not satisfied, we can send someone outside and ask him to stand out there for a while and come back into the room. And we can look very carefully at their face or their garments, looking for evidence of rain. This process of collecting data is germane and relevant to science. However, science begins to talk about causation. In the classical sense, A implies B, and not B implies not A. Both conditions are required for causation. However, we do not see causation. We do not see succession. We do not see motion. Every instance in time and space, you see an event. You utilize the concept of motion to explain that event. But the event itself has a distinct position every instant of time and space. But it would be very difficult to talk in terms of science without employing the concept of motion. The concept of zero. You don't see zero. Zero means the absence of any value. Nothing. How could you see nothing? How could you feel nothing? How could you taste nothing? How could you hear nothing? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The world of science uses a construct or a bridge of language in order to reach certain goals. They cannot prove the existence, but they use them every day. The concept of atom, the concept of gene, not verifiable through the senses, but used for pragmatic purposes, purposes of communications to avoid solipsism. The scientist doesn't like to tell you of these concepts that sound metaphysical in nature that he employs every day. Some mathematically inclined, some rationally inclined. He would prefer to tell you, don't ask questions about that. I am simply saying, if the scientist can use concepts that he cannot verify through the senses, he should not become upset when I use the concept of Allah, which I do not intend to verify through the senses. The second thing is that the world of Islam is really not in a contest with science. Some religions are frightened of science. Some religions are intimidated by the scientific method and scientific research. They feel that somehow science should be set aside and one should just confine their gaze to religion. The scientists, some, not all, say that science is more reliable. Religion, you have so many different sects and so many different points of view. No one seems to be able to agree on anything. Science can send planets or rockets to other planets. They can push buttons in Florida, and the NASA space shuttle takes off, and they can tell you when it will arrive, thousands and thousands of miles away. They can tell you what is causing sickness. They can tell you the distance measured in light years, 186,000 miles per second. They can use the categories of 6 trillion miles, the time it takes light to travel in a year, and they can apply it to the world around us in order to make predictions. The more accurate the predictions are, the more the world of science feels secure. Historically, the more accurate science is, the more the world of religion tends to diminish. At one time when people were ill, they relied on their interaction with their God to recover. The scientists came to them and said, don't waste time. Here's an aspirin. Take the aspirin. That's all you need to do. So the more people relied on aspirin and they in fact felt better, the more they said that science is more reliable. Some of the religious architects felt threatened and intimidated, and they start telling the people, stay away from science. Don't study science, because science will hurt you. This certainly is not the approach of Islam. Islam says, search the universe, everywhere, everything. Because in the search, you will find Allah. So that the critical pursuit of knowledge is compatible with Islam and is required by Islam. You don't have a choice. A Muslim is directed to explore. A Muslim is directed to travel. A Muslim is directed to think. A Muslim is directed to appreciate evidence. A Muslim is directed to understand that Adam, the first man, was taught deduction by Allah. And we are taught to respect induction. And we are taught to inspect induction. So we didn't wait for the world of science to tell us the value of induction or deduction or the world of science. It was in our holy book. Consequently, we are not apologizing for loving science. Some of the things that the scientists do today in their attempts to find the causes of diseases and ailments, we did for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in the world of Islam. We didn't wait for Roman numerals to determine the angle of elevation or the angle of depression in order to construct pyramids. Can you imagine trying to do division with Roman numerals? Multiplication with Roman numerals? Addition and subtraction with Roman numerals? We incorporated Arabic numbers, borrowed it from India, incorporated it and applied it in all dimensions of life. We encouraged Muslims to understand zoology, the plant and the animal kingdom. Why? Because we read in the Quran that Allah taught Adam the names of all the plants and all of the animals. Consequently, we felt an obligation to understand biology and botany, paleontology, just as a part of our upbringing. That's why Islam had such great and outstanding empires. Knowledge was the underpinning. Even in Spain, when all of Europe was in the Dark Ages, the Moorish Muslim from Morocco had the same name I have, Mansour. Brother Khalid Mansoor came into Spain. One of the first things he did was establish a library with 400,000 volumes. They designed the streets and they established lighted streets, 10 square miles, because of their respect for science and the application of science. So science isn't strange to us. We see no contradiction between a belief in Allah and science. So when I see the number of Muslims studying science, I'm happy, because it convinces me that we will be able to return to those traditions that were embodied in our way of life. We are taught that the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gave us the value of honey. He described the value of honey, the nutrients in honey that will impact on improving our life. So we are accustomed to looking at biology and nutrition as a way to prolong the life of a Muslim. The Prophet Muhammad told us that for every disease there's a cure. We didn't learn that from Louis Pasteur. We didn't wait for the Hippocratic Creed. The Hippocratic Creed was not a condition precedent to us recognizing that one can study and isolate to determine the causes of ill health and bad health and disease. When the Black Plague swept Europe, people were wiped out in mass. The Muslims in Spain said the cause is a disease. It's not magic. It's not demons. Not a genie. It's a disease. And this disease can be isolated and it can be eliminated. This is the tradition of Islam. Therefore, we inform the instructors in the scientific world. We are colleagues. We feel at home, whether it's geography, physiology, cytology, morphology. These are areas of knowledge, including computers, that is a part of the life of a Muslim. We respect these tools as conduits for finding knowledge. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I'm going to attempt to employ the method of the scientists to look at our individual personalities. How and why do we function the way we do? Is there life after death? If so, what form does it take? How does our personality operate? These are the topics that I would like to discuss with you, and I would like to start with the easiest, because then I can build my confidence up. If I start with the hardest, I might get nervous and stop. The easiest is the body, the physical body. We have a great deal of information about how the body works. We know that our body is comprised of billions and billions of cells. And we know that a certain percentages of those cells die every day. And a certain number are born every day. There is a birth-death cycle in our very body. At this very second, it is operating. And as these submicroscopic cells are born and they die, they intake nutrients in order to support the creation of new cells to replace the old cells. And just about every feature of your body except the brain, and I will come back to this later. As a general rule, the cells in your brain are not replaceable. General rule. Consequently, because of the importance of the brain, one must be very careful that you do not destroy brain cells. We will return to that topic. The body is in a continual process of birth and death. How does that process operate? I'm going to oversimplify now, but in general, you, as a human being, take in food, solids and liquids. The food comes into the mouth. There it marries enzymes. And it comes down to the stomach and through the large intestines. It's a rather slow process of reaching the large intestines or completing the conduits through the large intestine. About 26 feet. So when you eat solid foods, from the time that it enters your mouth to the time that it finishes at the entrance to the colon, it traverses about 26 feet. It takes between 3 and 5 hours, depending upon the nature of the food that you're eating. None of that solid food can get into the bloodstream. Your body has intestinal walls that will not permit any solids to pass through. So all the food you eat has to be converted to liquid, and then it can go into the bloodstream. If it doesn't enter the bloodstream, the cells cannot duplicate or replace themselves. So food, as you know, becomes very, very important. If you do not eat, you begin to lose body weight. When you lose up to 30%, that's called being anemic. When you lose up to 40%, that's called being dead. Your body is one of the most impressive miracles that we know of. The intricacy of the cells comprising tissue into organs, the heart, the lungs, the interaction with the mind is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Because in any given second, your body is receiving thousands and millions of messages to blink the eye, to take food out of the bloodstream, to move the finger, to move your head, to let other cells take nutrients out. All going on at the same time. Unbelievable, delicate balance. When we eat the solids, they must be converted to liquids. When we drink the liquids, the solids in the liquids have to be stopped. The liquid then comes in to the bloodstream. Some of those liquids have nutrients in them that help build cells. Others do not. The problem with our delicate system is that our organs, coupled with the enzymes, are decomposing this solid food. Some foods are more difficult to decompose than others. If you were to take a donut and you were to put some water, open it up and put some water in it and start rubbing it together, it becomes like dough, like chewing gum. Difficult to break down. When that goes into your body, you may feel full because it's occupying space in the stomach. But you are working your organs to death, trying to decompose and separate and break it up. In order to avoid having to reflect and sympathize with your organs, you just drink down a bottle of Coke. That is comparable to starting to fry some of your tissues. Take a bottle of Coke and take an egg and open it up, put the egg in a saucer, and then put the Coke over it and watch the tissues start to cook. In addition, there are 10 teaspoons of sugar in every 12-ounce bottle of Coke and Pepsi that you drink. In addition to the sugar in the donut. And your organs are fighting. It's like chewing gum, back and forth, and nothing is going on. So the organs call SOS, help. You won't listen. You drink then hot coffee. Organs say it again, help. So message is sent to the brain to take some of the oxygen that is in the brain that you need to think. Bring it down to the stomach to add extra fuel to help break up the junk down there. So you start nodding. You start yawning. You're trying to get more oxygen back into the system. So to take this junk before an examination or before you study is suicidal, intellectually and physically. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The body that Allah has given us, we have a responsibility to preserve it. The Quran said that we should do nothing to destroy our body. And through ignorance, many of us are destroying our body by what we eat. You are what you eat. Now that food that the body can't use, it can't get into the bloodstream, it passes out as waste through the colon. And some of the food is so junky, it cakes up in the colon. You are uncomfortable. You don't have regularity. Your body's trying to tell you you are courting disaster. You say, I'm not worried about that. I will take some X-Lax. The X-Lax just stimulates. It does not remove the plaque. You get toxicity in your system. So if you can't get the food out, it starts coming back up in and you get sick. Your immune system cannot fight off those diseases that are everywhere, the germs that are everywhere waiting to attack you. When your immune system is strong, you can look at the germs and say, shoot your best shot. But when the toxics are coming back into your system, it means that you do not have the efficient immune system. You become vulnerable. So all that grease that you take in causes strokes. Your body's telling you, we've had enough. Heart attacks, even cancer. So in regulating your body, you must take the knowledge of nutrition into consideration. The Muslim should have the longest lifespan, should have the healthiest body, because we should be studying the value of exercise and nutrition. In the old countries, people used to work from sun up to sundown in the hot sun. So the perspiration started getting rid of some of the poisons. But today we do little exercise. We go from one place to the other in the bicycle or car, airplane. So the body is not getting flushed out. There is something that is called fiber that you find in vitamins and minerals that sweeps out the colon. It's just like a broom. It starts removing the waste so that a buildup doesn't take place. So they keep telling you, eat fresh vegetables and fruits to make for regularity. But they also have to tell you to stay away from the grease. Hamburgers have 16 teaspoons of grease in one hand. In the old days, the impressions that we accumulated were extracted from experience. So you started to put your hand in hot water. Your mother took your hand and slapped it. And you associated the pain with the water being hot. And you entertained the notion of rejection. Mommy doesn't love me. Mother caused pain within me. The baby starts crying. Now you may forget that particular experience, but you don't forget your anger. You don't forget the antagonism that you had in the withdrawal of love. That is an impression. You don't see love. You don't taste it, you don't feel it. It doesn't come through the impressions or through the sense data. It is an impression that you have taken in, and you talk about, I am in love. I have a feeling. I have faith. I am sad. I am happy. These are impressions that describe the images that you have taken up throughout the course of your life. Highly charged. In my opinion, they move faster than the speed of light. They embrace concepts like envy, jealousy, ego. These are the operations of impressions, and they are going through your body continuously like large sheets of ice, moving at incredible rates of speed. So I can come to you and say, this brother back here does not like you. Now, logically, you could say, how does he know? Does he know that brother back there? Did he have a chance to talk to him? He's only been here a short period of time. These are all logical inquiries. But your emotions say, who does he think he is? That brother back there, I've been watching him a long time. He's looked at me funny for a long time. So the impressions captures you. And they use envy, strife, jealousy to keep you hypnotized. And this brother doesn't have any idea why these uneasy feelings are operating in you. He never said anything. But I became the conduit to utilize your impression and structure to organize, distort, and control your personality. That is what the great Shaitan does all the time. That's what happened to Adam. Adam talked to Allah directly. No one in between. He had pure knowledge. He had deduction. He knew all of the defining characteristics of the plant and the animal kingdom. Allah told him all of this for you. He didn't have to work. All the food there. Balanced nutrition. Walk around the garden, get exercise. Everything in Adam's hand. Shaitan said to Adam, you ought to be like Allah. Said, I know you're not going to believe this, but I've been giving this a lot of thought. The animals prefer you because Allah only comes once a day. You're here all the time. They feel closer to you. They like the way you treat your wife. The two of you walking together. The animals have gotten used to it. The plants, you see how the trees sway as you walk by? They are praising you, not Allah. And Adam says, no, this is crazy. Allah is the greatest. But in the back of his mind, the emotions come up with power, a feeling of acceptance, a feeling of pleasure. And before Adam can think critically, he disobeys. The emotions, powerful, sensitive, strong. That's why people gossip. They get on the telephone and they don't want to gossip, but it's nice. Talking about one another. Moving at the speed of light faster. If the emotions move slowly, we could deal with it. We would just say, here they come now, we'll cut them off. But they're moving so quickly. The only way you can control emotions is to become used to thinking in terms of 1/1,000,000th of a second. That's how you train your mind. 1/1,000,000th of a second to corral and isolate the emotions and prevent them from reaching back and bringing all of these impressions up to the forefront. The body can die. What about the emotions? It is my view that the emotions can reach a state of suspension. That is to say, no electrical charge, a plasma filled with impressions, but they do not die. And I use this concept to explain the personalities that are described as multiple personalities. You no doubt have read about Sybil, who is considered to have 21 distinct and different personalities. So in the course of a conversation, another personality just intrudes, sometime male, sometime female, and takes over, and Sybil becomes helpless. I'm contending that that represents a plasma that has not been phased into neutrality. On one occasion, The Bible says that Jesus met a man who was possessed of demons. Demons, impressions, plasma, the same. And in the conversation, Jesus asked them, "How many are you?" And the demon said, "We are legion." That means more than you can count. And they said, "Jesus, if you are going to expel us, let us go into the swine." And the permission was given, and the swine, the first thing they did, they ran down the mountain to commit suicide, attempting to reach a state of suspension. If you go to a mental institution, just listen to the statements of the people in the institution. They seem disjointed. They seem confused. But when you listen carefully, they are impressions operating in control of that personality. The mind has been overtaken. So what about the mind? The mind is one of the most important facets to the delicate balance of your personality. Because the mind is continually sending the messages. It's like a giant supercomputer. Millions of messages. Move a muscle. Take in nutrient value. That is the mind. Delicate, precious. The emotions are trying to control the mind. Look at that young lady. She is gorgeous. You say, well, I'm going to take it, but just a quick look. The emotions say, what's wrong with you? Why is it going to be so quick? Are you scared? She's only human. You say, well, yeah, that's right. Let me go back and look a little longer. The emotions are powerful. Your friends appeal to the emotions when they want you to do things. Get drunk. Have some drugs. Say, don't listen to the old people. The emotions, because the emotions are propelled by pleasure. They avoid pain. They want pleasure. That's what keeps them moving. Inside, the emotion says there's nothing wrong with drugs. I can prove it. Those old-fashioned people, they just don't know. Drugs! And you say, no, I don't like drugs. I don't want to be around drugs, but I'm just going to disco to be with my friends to be sociable, but I'm not going to take any drugs. That's the first step. After you get there, your friends come back and say, now, are you ready? You don't know how great it feels. Pleasure. I've never felt like this before. And you are now struggling. Your mind and your soul is telling you, you know better. You know what it's going to do to you physiologically. You know what it's going to do to you morally. The emotions are saying it's too late. I have you now. The mind, it's too late. The emotions have come within seconds and millions of seconds. They have drowned you with the concept of pleasure. And you said, I've been under enough stress from my parents and my friends and the teachers and the school. I need a release. I need an outlet. Give me those drugs. That's the emotions. Strong. Don't ever underestimate the emotions. When the emotions engulf you, the mind can hardly be heard. Sounds like a whisper. And the emotions just run rampant until they reach a plateau where boredom sets in, the emotions leave, and your mind starts trying to come back and take over your personality. When we lose control of ourselves and our mind deteriorates the emotions become stronger and stronger. The biggest problem today is that in the old days, it took a period of time for your emotions to gain all these impressions. You weren't born with all these impressions. You had to pick them up through various pain and pleasure scenarios. However, today, the television hypnotizes your mind just like drugs and pours the impressions in you. Pass by a television set. You have something to do, you're in a hurry, you're busy. So you just pass by and you see the television and you don't move, just like a zombie. Then after a while you kind of shake yourself and you continue. Because the television gives you a completed image. The radio, you start interacting. I wonder who he is. Does he really mean that? Is that really happening? So you hear the Gulf War on the radio and your mind interacts with the data. On television, you saw the sky. There's nothing else to see. You saw the complete image, and then another, and then another. Within seconds, before you can do anything, you are transfixed. And that is the arena from which you become lustful. You decide that it's time to go out and find a girlfriend. And you are going to have sexual relations. You don't care who likes it. That's the time when the junk food comes on the commercial. And you say, yeah, that is right. Let's go get some pizza. Just a big, fat glass of grease and some dough with a little bit of protein, and much of that is pig. We take it and say, that was good. Bring the coat to wash it down. Because the television has given you millions of images. It's like a transfusion. You're just helpless. Someone from outer space coming in and taking your personality and manipulating it and then giving it back to you as a helpless zombie. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Now, I reminded you from the beginning because I know some of you are saying, that's not why I came. I wanted to hear about Islam. I wanted to hear about the Quran. I wanted to hear about Salah. Well, you can attend some of my other lectures. Tonight, we are talking about nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The television. So you see a story and you drink that story in, then you start trying to relive that story because you know that there's a solution to the problems in the TV story. You saw how the people were able to manipulate and come to a reasonable conclusion. So you relive it because it presents the concept of certainty. You say, I know if I can just do this, I know how to solve the problem. Your mind is telling you that won't work. That's fantasy. Boy meets girl and they live happily ever after. The movies and TV is very clever. They never show you what happily ever after means. They just play some music to appeal to the emotions and they say happily ever after. Your mind is telling you start at the point of happily ever after and then describe the marriage. That's why your parents keep telling you, we would like to help you select a mate. We have a database. It's not that we don't like you. It's not that we don't like the young lady that you're so infatuated with. We have been through it. We have seen it, and we know that there are practical considerations like having a job, like eating some food, like how you're going to support the children. These are all part of the love equation. You're saying, no, I'm free. The emotions. You've borrowed from television all of these images, and you're dying to employ them because you are convinced they will end up in pleasure just like the movies and the TV. notwithstanding the fact that 50% of the marriages end up in divorce. That's what your mind is telling. Your mind is saying, take the data. Your emotions are saying, we don't need data. Feelings. Give us some music so we don't have to think about anything. Play the music as loud as possible. Keeps you in a trance. People even now have earphones. They tune everything out. Walking up and down the street. They don't want any distractions from the music that tells them what? Sex, alcohol, drugs. Drugs, alcohol, sex. Over and over and over. Slavery through the electronic, hedonistic existentialism called television. Your mind and your soul is saying the only way we can help you is to have strength. How does the mind? We know how the body gets food. We know how the emotions acquires its strength. How does the mind obtain its strength? The mind eats brain food. That is knowledge. Because you are faced with decisions all the time. Should I go this way or this way? Should I take alcohol? Should I not? Should I get married today or should I wait? Should I write the letter to my mother or should I not? Should I go home and attend the funeral? Should I not? Should I study tonight? Should I not? So you are faced with continual decisions. That's the function of the mind. And in order to make those decisions correctly, the more knowledge you have, the more reliable and sound your judgment is. The less knowledge you have, the more difficult it is for correct judgments. And the television doesn't give us knowledge. Many of our friends do not give us knowledge. Knowledge comes from reading. That is the brain food. Reading. That is what? The Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what he heard. Iqra. Read 3 times. He said to us, search the universe. Not just the Quran. Some people just want to read the Quran. Some people don't read anything. Some people just want to read the Quran or Hadith. We are told to search. Search means that you actively apply yourself. Search the universe. That's chemistry, that's physics, that's geology, that's geometry, that's algebra, cytology, it's medicine, it's engineering. Search the universe. Because in your search of the universe, you will find Allah. Knowledge. You will make correct judgments. You will be able to control your emotions. If Adam had searched long enough, his mind would have told him, Adam, Allahu Akbar. There's only one creator. This is Shaitan. We must read. What is our problem? Some of us don't like to read because emotions do not like knowledge. Some of us today don't know how to read. We can work a mathematical problem, but we can't read a magazine. We say, well, I'm not good at that. Allah didn't say read if you're good at it. We have an obligation. We need to be honest. There is no one in this room who can't read if I can read. Because when I entered college, I flunked the entrance exam at a college that has an entrance exam that no one flunks. The entrance exam at Howard University is designed to build up your confidence. People poor, people middle class, they all come to Howard, and that exam is designed to tell you you can make it. So when someone flunks that exam, they are in bad academic condition. I flunked it. I tried to pass it. It's not like I flunked it because I just wasn't interested. I tried as hard as I could to pass that exam, and I flunked it, and that failure represented my accrued academic ability up to that point in 1954. And when I started reading, it was the most gruesome thing I'd ever done. Because I like sports. So I can go and shoot basketball or play football and do weightlifting or sit-ups or push-ups and look in the mirror, and I can see after an hour some results. But I didn't see any results if I read for a half hour. I couldn't see how I was more intelligent. So I wasn't able to motivate myself. I wasn't able to inspire myself. So I finally, through the grace of Allah, started interacting with the material. When I started reading at the front of the page at the top, when I got down to the bottom, I forgot what I read when I started. So I started asking myself, who wrote it? How did he write it? When did he write it? He probably was mentally unbalanced. He probably was 5 feet tall. He probably didn't know who his mother was. All the things I was saying while I was reading. Then when I saw his mother was Elizabeth, I said he did know who his mother was. The information started coming out of the page, and I started acquiring a database. Then I started selecting friends, not those who wanted to party. I started selecting friends who were serious about acquiring knowledge. I didn't say anything. I would just listen to them talk, trying to understand. They use concepts like foreign policy. I couldn't imagine what is foreign policy. I know what foreign is. Policy, what does it mean? I couldn't understand the concept. Little by little, it started coming in to the point that I started then seeing some success. Then I said, never will I be ignorant again. Never. Allahu Akbar, Allah's going to feed my brain every day. I'm going to have knowledge every day, and I give credit to Allah. I give credit to Allah because I knew where I started. By the time I graduated from college, I received the highest academic award available in America. I won a fellowship my junior year to India. I was selected my sophomore year for a program in Detroit, Michigan to study all the aspects of a city and private corporation, and was voted the outstanding intern, even though I was a sophomore. Everyone else was either a senior or a graduate student. But Allah was the greatest. But Allah will not help those who will not first help themselves. You got to put forth, I don't care how strenuous and how tough, you got to see the object, you see your goal, you recognize that Allah is the greatest, and nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You need that knowledge to make sound judgments, to be able to control your emotions, to be able to know what foods are the most nutritious. The body, the emotions, the mind and the soul together. The soul bringing you morality, what is right and what is wrong. So that on the day of judgment, the body won't be there. The emotions won't be there. The mind and your conscience will be there, and that will be the day of judgment. That will result in a decision by Allah that will last for eternity. And because Allah is fair and just, because He knows the functions of the emotions, and He knows the role that the television plays in instituting the process of the emotions, He has ordained once a year Ramadan for 30 days. The first day your emotion says, give us some food. And you say, well, this is ramen. I say, that's not what I say. I ain't interested in that. Food. Don't be a fool. Those old things people did, that's for crazy people. You are intelligent. You are modern. Get us some food now. So you see magazines that you don't even look at, and right in the middle, food. Your friend comes up to you in the hallway and never offered you anything in your life. Excuse me, would you like to have donut? So, well, at least you could take a little water. That's not going to hurt anyone. For 30 days, your mind keeps saying, we promised Allah we are not going to break our word. So every day, the mind gets stronger. Your willpower becomes stronger. So if you are feeding your mind throughout knowledge, not gossip, not sleeping trying to find out what time the sun sets, stay awake, sleep at night. In the day, it's fasting time. Should be happy and privileged. Say, now I get the chance to develop the strength I need that will carry me for a whole year, that will keep my personality in balance. Your organs are getting a rest. They're not having to deal with all of that junk you put in every day. They are happy to get a chance to build up. The emotions are mad and furious, saying, we don't like this. But your mind and your soul is smiling, saying, yes. We are putting the personality back in its proper place. So after 30 days, you can feel the mental strength if you read and you reflect and you meditate and you pray. Read the Quran and read anything of substance that feeds the brain, mathematics, sociology, geology. Read, read, read. Reflect. When you get ready to eat, don't pour a lot of food. You should be losing weight during Ramadan, not gaining weight. The Prophet ﷺ took some dates, wild honey, things that have nutritional value that the body can use. That's why I was looking forward to talking to you. You're intelligent. You are people who have studied. So you can read about the 5 pillars tonight. But this information will enable you to realign your personality. Ramadan is going to get ready to start in just a few weeks. Approach it with great vigor and zeal. Ramadan. Glorious opportunity. Every Ramadan for the last 13 years I have written a book so that I wouldn't be watching the clock and wasting time. So I wanted to make sure I was feeding my brain during Ramadan. There's one book called Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing. The story of life and death. So those things that I was unable to tell you tonight because the time was limited to 1 hour, you can get the book and pick up the rest. Sunday is Bomb Day. That will be the Bomb Day. Of all the lectures that you have heard me deliver in this country, none will compare with Sunday. 4 p.m. Spread the word. Tell all of your friends they may never witness the Islamic bomb again as Sunday. Come in plenty time because the place may be filled up. The last thing I'm going to tell you, as I promised earlier, that a group of Muslims who understand the body and the emotions and the mind and the importance of the body spent a period of time, not me, but other Muslims, going back to our scientific traditions, and they devised a formulation how to take the nutrients out of food. Some of the foods you don't like have the most nutrition in them. How can you take that nutrition without all the bulk? Doesn't have to go down to the intestine. Go right in the large intestines into the bloodstream. Checks in with the liver and then goes throughout the body so that you can use it immediately. They devised a formulation for over 100 nutrients. Go to any store, health store, organic store, and ask them how much food you have to buy in order to reach 100 nutrients. They devised a product that 1 tablespoon has 100 nutrients. No sodium. You don't have to worry about the salt. Less than 1 gram of fat, not 16 teaspoons like a hamburger. A complex carbohydrate and a complete protein all in one. 2 tablespoons a day gives you all the vitamins and minerals that a human body needs in a day. They tested it for 8 years in order to get the right balance for most people. I found out about it by accident. When I heard it, I said, I want to try it. I found out that I had more energy than I have ever had, and I have always had energy. So I had a real small bowl of cereal, just like this, about maybe 1/4 of a cup. Today, that's it. But my energy level is tremendous. The product has come alive. You see it out there. You can cut back. You're going to lose your appetite because your body's going to tell you you have nutrients. So the normal amount that you eat, you're going to eat less. So you're going to save money. You're going to have more energy. More of the oxygen will be in the brain because your system is not grinding up a lot of solids. You put it in some juice or water and drink it. Then drink a glass of water and let the energy explode. Not like coffee. You don't go up and down, no jerks. This is peaceful. Your Ramadan will never be the same again when you come alive. Naturally. Stay alive. Take them both together. The stay alive is an herb that builds up your immune system so that you save money. Don't look on it and say, well, this is what it costs. You have to see what you're going to save when you reduce what you normally eat, and you are going to feel better. You're going to lose weight because you're not going to eat as much. 2 tablespoons has 54 calories. The nutritionists tell us that depending on your size, you can take from 1,500 to 2,500 calories a day. We are giving you the vitamins, minerals that you need, protein, carbohydrates, all with 54 calories, so that you will recognize. This is when you want a snack. This is just a little snack bar, energy bar. Nutritionist. You don't get all that junky sugar and all the goo and the ghee. This is Look Alive. We took Come Alive and Stay Alive and put it in aloe vera gel so that it protects the skin. They've been telling you about ozone and the rays that are coming, the wind that comes when you shave, you take a layer of skin off every time. This just reintroduces 100 nutrients into the skin every time you put on Look Alive. This is Stay Alive. The Indians took it for over 1,000 years to build their immune system along the Atlantic seacoast in the United States. Now, little children can't digest the proteins like adults, so they had to make up a product called Happiness is a Healthy Baby. This is for 1 day of birth until 12 months. This is Come Alive Vegetarian, all vegetarian. There's 2 types, vegetarian and non-vegetarian. The non-vegetarian, the source of protein comes from soybean. The vegetarian, the source of protein comes from whey. Or the non-vegetarian is whey, and the soybean is the vegetarian. Everything else is the same. All the nutrients, the carbohydrates, everything else the same. This is Feel Alive. So those who don't want to mix it in, and when you mix it, put the liquid in first, put the powder in next, in a container, shake it up 10, 15 seconds, that's it. Don't just put it in a glass and stir it. Prepare it properly. This is Feel Alive, it's already prepared. You just shake it up and put the straw in and drink it. This is for people that are more energetic, bodybuilders, weightlifters, people in the jogging, people that have had operations in the hospital. There are a few more here, but I won't take your time because my time has expired. I want to thank all of you for helping me to examine the topic, Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing. We're going to have question and answers as soon as you give me a generous round of applause. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid, and you were on such good form today that my emotions tell me to let you continue, but mine says time. Ladies and gentlemen, now is your opportunity to put questions to Dr. Khalid. Anybody who has questions, please form a queue on this side, and you'll be given the microphone for the camera to put your question. You can ask any question you like, as long as it's to do with the topic, and as long as Dr. Khalid will be able to answer it within an hour, because that's all we have left. While the queue is being made, I just want to introduce to you the Holy Quran that I mentioned earlier, the one with the translation and commentary by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. This Holy Quran is available outside at the special rate of only £5 a copy. We urge everybody to please go out and buy these because they not only help us to invite people like Dr. Khalid, but they also are beneficial to you because they explain what Allah's word is in simple English. As you can see, it has the Arabic on one side of the page and the English right next to it, with all the verses numbered. At the bottom of each page is an in-depth commentary which explains the meaning further. But the best thing is at the end, it has a comprehensive index. Whatever you need to know, it's in here in the index, and you just look up the references and you have Allah's word at your fingertips. These Qurans are available outside for £5 each, and we have the videos of Dr. Khalid's South African tour and all of Sheikh Didat's videos at only £6 each outside. You're most welcome to visit the stall after questions and answers. Now, if anybody has any questions, please form a queue here, and let's get the session underway.
Thank you. There are also some of those books that I wrote are outside also. Just buy whatever you want. Students, I know, have limited budgets, and so we don't want you to feel embarrassed. But those of you who have the funds, please avail yourself of the opportunity. Those who do not, take the address of the World Islamic Propagation Institute, and you can order them from them. Oh, the order forms are here. All right, fine. Now the queue for the questions is going to be where? It's going to take you a little time because the topic is such that you just don't have a lot of questions all at once. They start coming slowly, little by little. The queue will be over here. Because if there's no other questions, I have another hour then, right? right, here's a question. Walaikum salam.
I tried to do a lot of reading, but as you said, that when you started, you kept forgetting, and that happens to me. Is it because of what I eat, or is it the emotions that I have?
It can be both, but the way to correct that is to get friends who also read so that you can exchange the ideas. For instance, there's some things that you don't forget. There are, if someone tells you that if you go 5 steps down the hall and turn left, there's $1 million there, you are going to get the money. You find people who are told by their teachers that they are mentally retarded, but they can listen to a rap song, for instance, MC Hammer, Too Legit to Quit, and they hear that song 2 times, and there's a lot of words. I can hear it 20 times. I still will not know all the words. I have to get a pencil and paper and keep going back over it. But these young people hear it 2 times, and they can repeat every word in the record. How are they able to do that? First of all, they visualize themselves using the song, reciting to their friends, and their friends having fun with them. So they see rewards. Secondly, they believe they can do it because they've done it before, so they have a sense of self-confidence. Thirdly, when their friends ask them, have you heard MC Hammer's latest record, Too Legit to Quit? It starts building up both curiosity and anticipation. So as soon as they hear it, they break all the barriers down and they start grabbing the information and internalizing it immediately. We do the opposite. We start reading and we say this is going to be boring and I'm not going to understand this, and we plant all of the doubts, all of the negative things. We don't get excited, we don't feel motivation, we don't know how we're going to use it. We're saying, if I read this, what am I going to do with it? So if we adopt the approach of the youth, who don't take a pencil and paper, but rely on enthusiasm, and they control their emotions. Their mind forces the emotions to obey, and they end up with a success. Then they keep rewarding each other. They said, yeah, I can do it. I bet you can't do it. Yeah, I can do it. And they start repeating it. We are doing the same thing on a slightly different level. We are forming friends and saying, look, why don't you read this and I'll read this, and let's talk about that in the cafeteria. Instead of just gossiping, let's discuss foreign policy. Let's discuss the election. Let's discuss Algeria. It's always interesting to start out with a subject matter that you're already familiar with, because it's easier to retain your attention. But then spread out. If you just restrict yourself, you're not going to grow. Some people start reading the Quran. They don't want to read anything else except the Quran. So they're not expanding, they're not growing, they're not feeding their mind. So when they have a judgment to make, they don't have enough data to support that judgment. We want, and I'm sure if we don't have it, we will have it next week. We need a book discussion group on this campus that meets once a week to discuss books that relate to all phases of life. So you just get together and 5 or 10 people, and then it'll grow, and you give your various opinions and you read. That builds the motivation. That gives the help that you need. That is certainly what happened to me, and there are many who've had the same experience. The most important thing is that you continue to tell yourself that Allah ordered you to read. He would not order you to read if He didn't give you the ability to read. So the ability is with you. Now it's a matter of putting together the motivation and the environment to keep you focused on the target. Afwan. Are there any other questions? While you may be asking, coming there, yeah, just come over. We want to stress the how narcotics, when you take drugs, it incapacitates the brain. So the emotions take over. That's why people are loaded. The brain is incapacitated. So when you're driving the car, you run into telephone poles because the brain is not functioning properly. The emotions take over. Stay away from the drugs. Yes, sir.
Concerning the danger of listening to maybe music or watching television, considering that we have to take moderation in things that we do, that we can't exactly stop it completely, or maybe we can, but considering the circumstance and the environment, we might have to interact with these things, again, as you say, to broaden your knowledge.
All right, the first question is, what about smoking? Because I did not mention smoking tonight. I have mentioned it before. But smoking is simply nicotine. Your lungs, if you stretch your lungs out tonight, they could cover a tennis field, a tennis court. Your lungs can be stretched out to cover it. When you smoke, the particles of nicotine, it's going into the lungs. You're inhaling, and it's going into the lungs. It's not a solid food as such. So it's going into the lungs, and it is lodging itself in the crevices of the lungs. And it starts building up. Now your brain is sending messages to the lungs all the time. And when you start getting these buildups, it shorts out the current. The message that's going through is getting shorted out. And there's a point at which that the cells revolt. And they go crazy. That's called cancer. So when the message comes to the cells to take out nutrients, the cell says, no, we're not going to do it. And we're going next door to our friend and tell him you don't do it. Even though the deoxyribonucleic acid, or the DNA, has programmed the cells to obey, they go and they have a revolt. Then they go to their other buddy and they say, you rebel, we're going down together. So you start contracting, you start losing weight. Nicotine is a killer. There's no other way to look at it. It's just a killer. Allah says, do not destroy what I gave you. No way around that. So every time you smoke, you are contributing directly to the destruction of your body. Lung cancer. And if you think that that is a pleasant experience, take a visit to the hospital. Ask them to take you to the cancer ward. You would like to see some of the people with lung cancer. The pain is excruciating. There is nothing worth that pain. The emotions are telling you, yes, you don't have to worry, you're just used to it. You're just used to it, and you deserve a little relaxation. It helps you digest your food. That's the emotions. That's not based upon knowledge. Your mind would never tell you that. Because your mind is going to read the studies about cancer and lung cancer, and your mind is going to say, here is a judgment based on knowledge. Your emotion is going to say, we don't need knowledge. You want to have some fun? Get that cigarette. It makes you like the others. The issue is both empirical and spiritual. It's a killer. Why would you commit suicide? What are you getting out of it except appeasing the emotions? When should you stop? Tonight. Just get you a little come alive, stay alive, throw the cigarettes away. The money that you save from the cigarettes, you can subsidize the come alive. Throw the cigarettes away. they're not only destroying you, they're destroying everyone around you. I got to breathe all that nasty pollutant. I was out there meditating in the hall, and people coming by with cigarettes. I had to change locations because you could smell it. Your body and my lungs are so clean now, I'm very sensitive. My lungs are saying, Khalid, move, get out of here. I don't want that nicotine, but you're giving it to, you tell me you love me, you want me to come back and give another lecture, yet you're trying to kill me. And mothers, you are surrounding that baby with nicotine. The studies show that it has a detrimental effect. The baby is going to breathe what you put there. Both alcohol and nicotine and all that fat and pork and grease. Demonstrate your respect for what Allah has given you. Show your appreciation through an orderly observance of good health and respect for your fellow man. Don't handicap a baby coming into the world that didn't have a chance. It didn't have a choice. The baby has been 9 months living in an environment of pollution. The studies show when the baby's born, its lung capacity is diminished because of the smoking of the mother. And that caffeine the same. That coffee and tea, it is a drug. Put it away. We're going to bring you a tea that doesn't have any caffeine, has ginger like the Quran talks about, and honey, raw honey. It's called Be Alive, B-E-E. And the tea is called Come Alive with Mighty Tea. Are there other questions? Afwan.
TV and radio and stuff.
Yes, I'm sorry. I am not advocating that you never go near a television. I'm simply saying you have to ask yourself what you're watching and why you're watching it, and pass it through the brain first. Don't watch TV on brain time. If your diet calls for brain food, unless you're watching something of substance on television that has brain food, don't lie to yourself. Know what you're doing and plan your program, both with the movies and the television. The music, nothing wrong with music. It's the words in the music. Musical beats and rhythm, this is natural. But it's the words that you keep listening to all day long. How much sex should you be able to listen to without becoming affected? How much is about drugs and sexploitation should you listen to before you say enough is enough? You have to make that judgment. For me, I don't need any. I don't see any reason to experiment. If the song is going to be filled with drugs and telling you to gear yourself to go to bed with someone that night, I'm not listening. I'm going to use that same music, you know, with the recordings now. You can check the words out, put in any words you want. Why would you expose yourself to garbage? I've always been taught that you put garbage in a garbage can. Are you a garbage can? Why would you put that inside your system? It is going to have an effect. So weigh everything that you expose yourself to based upon reason in the Quran and principles of moderation, and decide what would be acceptable. Let us just assume, in case you have difficulty deciding, you're saying, I thought about it, I read the Quran, but there was no TV during the days of the Quran. And I didn't see in the Quran anything about Perry Mason. So I don't know what to do. I say simply, just imagine that Allah was with you and He was going to spend the whole day with you. What would you expose Him to? Would you take Him to the library? Probably wouldn't feel any reservations about that. Would you then say to Him, why don't you stay in the library, because I got to go down and see this TV show because it has half-nude women. But I'll be back in an hour unless I get hung up, but at least by 2 hours. And if I'm not here by 4, why don't you just go and I'll catch up later. You would begin to think seriously and logically about your Deen and the Creator of the world, and you would begin to put things in their proper perspective. Why not do it every day instead of waiting until the day of judgment? Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, I would like again to thank all of you. I mean it very sincerely for coming out. I thank you for the invitation. I would like to commend the World Islamic Propagation for the untiring efforts. I mean, they have worked and they have planned, and I've kept them up half the night, and they have never complained. I appreciate it a great deal, and I want you to know that these are people who believe in you, who are not just coming once a week to try to show off. They are committed to spreading the word of Islam. I've been very impressed, and I'm going to tell people wherever I go of the great work that they are doing. Don't forget the Quran outside. It is there for you. Come alive, stay alive. There are also the books. And if you can't do anything else, write down your name and address so that we can have a mailing list, so the next time we're in the area we make sure that we get back together again. Have a good evening. Get the highest grades in this university. That's what I want the professors to tell me. That's what I want the deans to tell me. When I ask them how are the Muslims, they say, do you know something? The Muslims are at the top of the class every semester. They don't cheat. They don't steal answers. They set an example for the entire institution. That is a Muslim. Until next time, I say to all of you, Assalamu alaikum.
Just a couple of brief announcements. Tomorrow, inshallah, 12 o'clock, Croydon Mosque, 525 London Road. Dr. Khalid will be speaking on the topic of Ramadan, the month of discipline. And tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. at the Greenwich Islamic Center on the topic of Welcome to the Wonderful World of Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Just one more request, can you please all leave from this door because there's too many cables on that side. Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country? All right. How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberley property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds, and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So
And
you don't want to
I will
answer the
know
question.
that he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
if you accept him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Assalamu alaikum. This country could explode. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he worked, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new Africa. Forget the begging. There will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and the International Monetary Fund tells you. It's crumbs.